and welcome to another episode of the SmallBizChat podcast. I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady, America's #1 small business expert, and I am so pleased to be your host. And man, do we have an amazing show for you guys today. I don't know, you guys, 2025 is to me the season of that girl, and I've got two amazing boss chicks on here today that are at different stages of business that are going to talk to us about what it is to be them and how strategic they had to be to get there. When I think about today's show, I think it's all about legacy. We're going to talk to a CEO who is the second generation in her family to run her business. We're also going to talk with a CEO who's grown several multi-million dollar businesses, has exited one, and she's going to talk about how to be a boss chick for 40 years and running. And listen, I'm raising my hand because I want to hear that story myself. And both of these ladies have written very inspirational books. So we're going to talk about that too. So if you're a business owner who's been struggling to grow your business, if you're in a family business and you're looking for advice to how to have a successful family and business, you are in the right place because my guests have amazing insight to share. Now, here on the Small Biz Chat podcast, our mission is to end small business failure. We are a peer-to-peer interview show that really gives you a way to get amazing advice that you otherwise would have to pay for. Now, our Small Biz Chat broadcast can be seen on my Small Biz Lady YouTube channel and also on my Facebook page. And please, if you are listening to this podcast, please subscribe. Please leave us a comment. Let other people know why this is invaluable business information. Our goal on the Small Biz Chat podcast is really to give you an opportunity to hear sage advice from multiple angles so that you can take your business to the next level. Today, my guests are Carla Trotman, CEO of Electrosoft Inc., and Sandra James, CEO of Private Eyes Background Checks. And I'm so excited to have both of them here today. I'm so excited to have Carla Trotman join us on the stage for the Small Biz Chat podcast. Carla, you and I have been friends for forever and a day, but this is the first time that you have actually been a guest on the Small Biz Chat podcast. So welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
All right, so let's get into your backstory. You have such an interesting backstory. So I want to know, how did you become the CEO of, first of all, what is Electrosoft and how did you become the CEO of Electrosoft?
Electrosoft is an electronics contract manufacturer. What is a contract manufacturer? It is, so think about it from the perspective of Apple. Apple, you have your iPhone. Apple does not have manufacturing facilities. In fact, they outsource their manufacturing to a company in Asia and they say, here are our drawings. We want you to build this product for us. We do the same thing, except we don't do commercial products. We're not building iPhones. We build electronics for industrial and defense applications. Primarily, we focus on what I call the brain and central nervous system of a device. So you open any device, you'll have a circuit board with all these parts in it. And then you'll have cables and wires, something powering it and just generating power throughout. And that's what we build. We help our customers do the electronics, build the electronics for their devices. The company was actually started by my father and mother 38 years ago on the kitchen table. It was one of those accidental businesses where my father had the company decided to shut down the instrumentation division. He was running manufacturing. He was writing software for blood analyzing equipment. The company said, we don't do that anymore. And he's home figuring out the next step. And someone says, hey, you know, manufacturing and cables, can you build these cables for me to help me out? He did it. They said they're great. And the next thing you know, we were in business.
Wow. So your father ran the business for how long? Like, when did you join the business? Because you didn't start out working for your family business. You went and did some other stuff.
I sure did. So I started, I grew up working in the business, helping on the kitchen table, cut wire for 25 cents an hour with a ruler instead of wire cutters. In the garage, helping do things, help when we moved from building to building. I didn't really take it serious as a business because honestly, Melinda, as you know, we are not trained to think of small business as a viable career when you're young. You're
No.
told go to college, get that good degree so you can get that good paying job with those good benefits, and don't you ever quit. You all fight for the C-suite, and that's how you're going to make your living. And so when I see my family starting this little business, we don't have a giant skyscraper in the city. We're at one point in a car shop, doing circuit boards and running them through a machine. And I'm helping my dad. And I'm like, this is awful. We didn't have air conditioning. Like, you see your family building this business, you don't think that it could lead itself to generational wealth. In fact, generational wealth is never really even a discussion. It's just about like, we got to pay these bills, we got to ship it out. And I think it wasn't until I had gone to college. I was helping my dad with a project after school, after college, um, for the military. And I really just wanted to work in the field that I went to school for. I went to school for business logistics. I wanted to work in supply chain. But it wasn't until I would say it's been almost 16 years ago that I started working with my father, side by side. I left corporate and said, "Hey, I want to run the family business." I started to realize what legacy was about. I had a small business on the side, a little e-commerce site, and that little e-commerce site, we had a global clientele, and it had celebrities following. And I realized that small business really is an economic engine, and it caused me to shift gears. And shifting those gears, again, I worked with my dad for it was 16 years ago that I had left corporate. We worked side by side. I said, "Hey, I want to take over." He said, "Cool. 3 years, I'm out." That 3 years took 11 years. But in that time frame, so I had an on ramp, off ramp period with him. I had the period of training wheels. I had the opportunity to run crazy ideas past him and know that I wouldn't blow the whole thing up. We worked as partners. I was a trusted advisor. I could bring an idea and we could work it out as business partners in a sense. And 3 years before he transitioned out of the business, before I became the sole owner, I was running the company and it kind of in the background, and we didn't tell anyone.
Mhm.
And so when we made the announcement that Carla's now the sole owner and the president of the company, if you haven't noticed anything for the past 3 years, good, because she's been running it. So it kind of gave people that sense of like, yeah, she really knows what she's doing after that time frame. But it really was a long period, but I don't look at it in a poor way or in a sad way or upset way. How many people get the opportunity to work with a parent for a long portion of their life
Right.
and them really start to rely on you as a trusted source to help change the generational wealth and succession of the business?
I think that's an extremely important point to make. But now you've been at the helm a few years now. So
Mhm.
how have you brought sort of like your vision and your leadership style to the business? You're not your dad, right? You're a different kind of leader. And so I wanted to understand, how did you make that transition? Obviously still being deferential to him, but like now it's your ship, you're driving the bus, right? So
Yeah.
how did you make that transition?
It was kind of difficult for me because it was my own mental block. I knew the steps, I knew what needed to be done. I had the education, I had gone to graduate school and had gotten that good MBA. That doesn't show you how to run a business. It really, even if we did a lot of case study, and case studies run you through a lot of just situational things to see how you would think and what you would do so that if you're ever in those situations or parallel to it, you kind of have an idea, framework, and how to work the problem. But it doesn't really cover family business and it doesn't cover small business, and it's very different. So for me, it was the first thing I knew I had to do was create an advisory board. I had the whole team that reported to my dad, from the management side to bankers, lawyers, everyone. They were used to the way that he would run things. And I could never just run it my way if I was just seen as a replacement. So I had to create my own banking relationships, my own attorneys, my own advisory team. I We kept the management team, but there needed to be some augmentation because I'm thinking from a business perspective. He thinks from an engineering perspective. I think differently about culture than my father does. And we have the same family oriented culture, but I'm more structured in a business sense that fairness, I know how far fairness goes in business. I know how far, especially in a family business where the assumption is nepotism, which that's what it is, but they also want you to be qualified and so they could trust you, because if they didn't trust you they would leave.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully people didn't leave, and I think part of it too was running it from the background for, and then people knowing me for so long and how dedicated I was. But also we spoke to our customers and let them know, hey, this is what's going to happen. Carla's going to be taking over. That's the plan. And the customers were relieved because they're like, well, we like working with you. We don't want have to look for another supplier, and we like Carla. So that made the transition a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any moments of doubt though? Was there anybody that was just like, I'm not feeling Carla? You know what I mean? And you had to like make a
They didn't
hard
tell
decision, whether it was an employee or a vendor. Like, was there somebody who was like, I'm not dealing with that man's daughter? But like, was there anybody that sort of like gave you static and you had to kind of, I don't know, you had to
I think
figure out how you were going to handle that?
the energy, is different because my father and I are so different.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest things that I think was helpful was bringing in an organizational psychologist. And that was suggested to me by a member of our board. And what they do is, I always call it like he's pretty much a therapist, but he helps you think of things from the perspective of the company. How do we create alignment? How do we get over this? Is this a deficiency in your training? Maybe we need to bring somebody in. And they really help smooth away all of the stuff that people kind of bring to work but don't express, or maybe they express it, but it comes out in a terrible way. Maybe it's an attitude, maybe it's in the way they do their work. And we worked, and that's attributable to culture as well, where people
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel that they had a voice. So for me, it was really important that we like each other in a sense. We don't have to be in love and hang out after work and like
Right.
each other's hair, but we have to respect one another, share information, and really be honest about how we feel about something, because I'm relying on all of these people to help move this business forward. So that was hard because we didn't have it that way. I think it was a little bit dysfunctional, and which anytime when you have multiple generations going off of an old school way of operating,
Mm-hmm.
because as you know, culture has changed. The workforce of the future is very, very different than it was.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up in that change and people part of that change, I've been able to identify how I wanted the company to look. So the hard part for me was, what did I want the company to look like and how do I get it there? And that org psychologist and the advisory board were so beneficial.
So tell me about family dynamics though, right? Because you have siblings, I think one of your brothers worked in the business. So tell me about how hard that was, because I used to work with my former spouse and I think working together almost, kind of finished killing our relationship. So tell me about some of the family dynamics as you sort of like took over the business, or how you handled hard decisions related to family members that work for you.
Family dynamics, yes. So originally the goal was all three of us, me and my two younger brothers, would take over the business. One of the things my father always told me was that you go into business with people who have something to offer. And I thought this would be great. My one brother is really smart when it comes to IT and our devices and programming our robotics. The other is very much a hands on mechanical person, so he can help run the production floor, and I'll take over the front and do all the business. What wound up happening is that I saw that we had three different layers of dedication. There is the, yes, it's our family business. I'm dedicated to the family. Then it's like, this is a job that I have to come in and I got to do it. And then there was the dedication of, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make it work. Um, And I felt that I was the only one doing whatever it would take to make it work. Everyone else was kind of like treating it as a job or an obligation. When I realized those things, I said to my parents, well, also another thing happened. I failed to mention, when you think about succeeding your business from one generation to the next, it is a taxable moment. It's not like you think it is on TV, where I gave my dad $1 and then he transitioned the business, or that he gifted it to me in some way. We hadn't been doing stock transfers over the year, which is also a way to do it, but that's not what we had done. What had needed to happen was that in the time frame we were allotted, we have to take a giant loan out pretty much, and then do some other things to make it transition, because it's a taxable moment. I wound up having to use all of my assets, because you need to take out a loan from the bank. And the bank interviews you, looks through your financials, looks at your business, just combs through your life and says, yes, we believe that you will pay us back. And because of my position of having a lot of assets, because I had a whole career before this, because I had the education, because I had the corporate experience, they believed that I would be able to do it, but I would have to lead. Everything would be on me to run the company. And when I thought about that, people go into business with people that have something to offer, I looked and said, they're not really coming in. I'm always here, all of my assets, and yet they have 66% of the voting power. Like, how does that work? And then at the end of the year, the net, they get 66% of that. And the liens are all on my assets. How does that work? Like, how do I go into this deal and not hate myself, right? How do I not become bitter towards them, feeling that I had to make the sacrifice and no one else did? So I suggested, when my parents pushed back and said, no, this is supposed to be a third, a third, a third, I said, well, then why don't you cut the company up into 3 pieces? And everybody's financially responsible for their own division. And they're like, well, they can't do that. I said, exactly. So why is that? It's my obligation. It's my cross to bear. And we really were at an impasse for a number of years. It took 3 years for us to go through that process. So there were a little bit of hard feelings, but in the end, my dad was like, you're absolutely right. Why should you put forth all of the risk and only be left with a third? And we even talked about super voting rights. And to me, I still didn't think that was enough. So I do most of the work and get a portion of it. What if we get a nice net sum at the end? And I was like, hey guys, we need to reinvest in this equipment, buy a building, do something. And they're like, well, I was going to buy a house. I need that money for this house. Or I was planning on doing XYZ, or just no. Mm-hmm. They vote against me. How do I have a controlling interest and have all of the risk and very little reward? So my parents did decide, you're right. You're right. You should be the owner of the business. But that didn't cause any issues, because they were able to even it out with other assets in their estate. I just happened to be living and breathing, and they were living and breathing during the time of the transition of this portion of the estate.
Got it. So they were still able to make your siblings whole without them feeling like, oh wow, you guys just gave the most valuable asset to her, Mm-hmm. And I recognize that's totally family drama, but I'm glad that you guys worked through it and you're still a family, right? Because sometimes that happens and then nobody comes to Thanksgiving, right? Like that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah. Very real.
Yeah, no, it is. Well, now I want to switch gears with you a little bit, because you wrote this little book that I am so excited about. Dark, Dirty, and Dangerous.
Yes.
The vibrant future of manufacturing. Now, your company is considered an advanced manufacturer, right?
Yes.
So talk to me about this book, and what was the key message in it that you wanted people to learn?
Well, so it was not my dream to write this manufacturing book. Honestly, when I looked around for other mentorship within advanced manufacturing, I couldn't find anyone that looked like me. Now, they didn't necessarily have to look like me, but I was curious to know if there were. And I even asked suppliers, customers, and they said no, they've never really met any woman, a black woman or a black family running electronics manufacturing company in advanced manufacturing. And my voice was always requested or at the table. What do you think? What do you think? And so it just felt like it was time to talk about it, but I didn't want it to be a boring manufacturing book. So I wanted to overlay um, a story of a Black family in a very unique position that happens to be manufacturing. But I also wanted to leave little breadcrumbs for folks who wanted to follow us. And not necessarily in a manufacturing, but high barrier to entry industries who did not understand family business and how it worked because they would like to have a family business.
Mm-hmm.
Who thought that, oh well, it's just so easy because they were educated and people just gave them money. No, we had the same systemic issues, and I needed to talk about it. I needed to, give the behind the kimono view of what it's like to be Black in business. And even if you're a successful business, that it's still a struggle. We just happen to be in a struggle for 38 years at this point. The book was about building authority in the field and standing out. The book, I wanted it to be a gift so that my 16-year-old could read it easily and say, I got an idea of the direction I need to be in. And it was important. We had this saying in our family when it comes to the business, if you can see it, you can be it. We didn't obviously create that, but it's like our mantra in a sense. My father, when he graduated from high school out here in the suburbs of Philadelphia, was told as a young man who was talented in math and science, that he could either become a teacher or go into the military. Those were his options for jobs. So he picked the military, and here he is, 18, overseas, fighting Vietnam War, ends up on deployment on the continent of Africa, where he meets a Black electrical engineer, an Ethiopian engineer. Never met one that looked like him in his life, never even knew that was a possible career, and changed the entire trajectory of my family. That's when he decided to go to college and study electrical engineering. That's when he became, he used his talents to create a life for us, to create this business. My mother saw in him, like, he followed her to school. So, it took a good woman for him to go to school. He follows her there and decides to go into electrical engineering. And she held the family down while he built this company. And so there's a story of partnership in that book. There's a story for us, again, back to our family. If you can see it, you can be it. So this book is part of it, showing you that you can be capable and do it. We did it. There's nothing super special about us. We just This is just I would say, a little bit of a roadmap, and give you an idea, some inspiration on how to get there. And we talk about succession planning a little bit. We talk about generational wealth and how small business is the pathway, and family business is the lifeblood of global businesses, and that we hope others can follow suit.
Definitely, but I want to dig into the generational wealth piece of this for a second, because the whole point of why we do any of this, right, is so we can live how most people can't, right? So talk
Yes.
to me about the generational wealth and the things that you're talking about and thinking about, because I think you made a point at the top of this interview that it's not just about this business, it's about generational wealth for your family, for your children.
Yes.
And so can you talk a little bit about how intentional you've been in your business, and even in how you structured the business financially to create generational wealth?
Absolutely. So for me, when I talk about generational wealth, to not turn people off, there's levels to this, right? So I'm not talking about Rockefeller, Vanderbilt level of wealth. That's, we want that, obviously. But the generational wealth we're talking about from a very basic rudimentary level, let's talk about the fact that we as a Black community are having GoFundMe funerals. Let's talk about the fact that, grandma's house is not clear in title, and we got to figure out all this stuff, and she passed away, we don't know who owns what. Oh, and this cousin rolls up from somewhere and now they're part owner. How do we do this? What is probate? Why do we have to go through this now? Because there's no free title, no free clear title, or there's no will, or the will is written on a piece of loose leaf paper that she tucked away in a drawer. We need to not think of generational wealth as a Rockefeller. We need to think of it as just doing regular basic things like a simple will, like putting things in a simple trust. That's a little half a step up, so that you don't have to go through an expensive, long, excruciating, argumentative period of fighting over something that it will be left with very little at the end. A life insurance policy, a burial insurance policy, something that will allow the next generation to not start in the negative. Now, as small business owners, we have the opportunity to have our children on payroll. Now, when they're on payroll, what are they doing? They're paying into Social Security. They have the opportunity to open a Roth IRA. They can put that money into a 529 account. That is payroll, so that's pre-taxed money for you as a corporation, and you're able to allow them to grow their generational wealth where you're not paying out of pocket for college, or now you can use that for private school, taking out $10,000 a year. Now, mind you, disclaimer, I am not an attorney, I am not a taxist, I am not an accountant. I am just sharing with you details of how we as business owners, how small businesses tend to benefit from the laws that are written for small business. So again, on that very rudimentary areas level, it's about taking care of the basic things: insurance, burial insurance, titling, wills, making sure that everything is in place for you when you have your untimely demise, or helping your grandmother or mother and father to get to that point. I know it's hard for them to talk about it, but this was for my family. When my family talked about succession planning, it was up here. It was not a plan that was executed out on paper. So I had to help them create that so that we could successfully move on. I've had friends who have family businesses. Dad was sick, stepmamas that put the business in my name. Thankfully, they were able to get the succession plan through, and father passed 2 months later. Had they not, the mess that
Mm,
would have ensued because of that.
yeah.
Like when you have siblings and cousins and aunts and uncles, it becomes, he said, she said, this paper, that paper. Get your house in order. That's how we create generational wealth. It's starting, even if that extra $10,000, so somebody can get out of their debt, or help them get to start at least a neutral position, because we always, as a community, end up starting in negative. So for
Right.
me, I'm sorry.
No, no, I'm amen inquiring you, but I guess my as we wrap this up, what is the legacy that you hope to live through your business, the legacy that you hope to leave for your family, as you build this empire that you're building.
Well, I don't want my kids to think that they have to work at Electrosoft. I don't want them to have the same feelings that my brothers had felt, that they had to be here. So we're setting it up as an asset, something that they own, where we hire people to run the company, and they know how to run the business or own a business as an owner. That we have other assets, and they look at their portfolio of assets and understand the financials. They have a board of advisors that they believe in. There's a fiduciary board that's running things for them. So I want to leave a legacy of asset ownership. And I want them to be able to, I'm not trying to retire them. I want them to still have a career and a life, but I want them to realize that my parents started something that allowed their grandchildren to eat, and now it's my job to do the same, and it will be their job to continue that tradition.
I love it. I love it. All right, what's the best business advice anyone's ever given you?
Again, back to what my dad said: don't go into business with people who don't have anything to offer. And that's for everything, every business relationship, every organization you join. Like, your time is valuable. How you spend your time on this earth, it doesn't have to be a business. It could be how you spend your time on the weekend, who you spend your time with. Don't spend it with people who don't have anything to offer you.
That's it. That's it. Well, thank you so much, Carla. That was such good information. And when we come right back, we're going to talk more about how to build a business and stay in business over the long haul. You're watching the Small Biz Chat podcast, and we will be right back.
Are you ready to turn your dreams of entrepreneurship into a reality? Hi, I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, and I want to invite you to check out smallbizladyacademy.com. We're here to help you every step of the way with our comprehensive training programs and expert resources. You'll learn how to start and grow a successful business that aligns with your passions and your goals. From business systems to sales strategies, we cover it all. Plus, our supportive community of fellow women business owners is here to cheer you on and provide guidance when you need it. Don't wait any longer to pursue your dreams. Join smallbizladyacademy.com today. We build businesses and we help you build the life you've always wanted.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Small Biz Chat podcast. I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady, your host. And if you're watching this on my YouTube channel or my Facebook page, please subscribe. Leave us a comment if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a star, leave us some stars, leave us a comment, especially if you love it. Now it's time for me to introduce my guest. Her name is Sandra James, and I want to bring her to the stage now. Sandra, welcome to the Small Biz Chat podcast. She is a serial entrepreneur. She's built several businesses from the ground up, and she currently serves as CEO of Private Eyes Background Screening Group. And she has decades of experience running multi-million-dollar businesses. She loves giving back to her community by serving on nonprofit boards and mentoring other women. She's a mother of two grown men, and she is proud and happily married to her husband. And she and her husband divide their time between Nevada, California, and Florida. She's also the best-selling author of Don't Tell Me I Can't, a book that she hopes inspires others to pursue all of their dreams. If you want more information, head over to privateeyesbackgroundchecks.com. Again, that's privateeyesbackgroundchecks.com. Sandra, welcome to the Small Biz Chat podcast.
Thank you, Melinda, for having me here today.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to talk to you. You know, you are like, someone that I hope to emulate someday. When you and I met, you told me that you had been a CEO for 40 years. And I was like, girl, let me please take my hat off to you, because I want to know, I want to know how you did it. Tell us a little bit about your background, and then tell me, what do you think has been the key to your success?
Well, I didn't plan. I didn't when I was a little girl, I didn't think, oh, I'm going to be CEO. I went through so many challenges and so many things. And then, I started in the information business working for someone else, and I was doing sales. And then I was doing really well at sales. So I was bringing in lots of business, and the operations couldn't keep up with it. So they said, we want you to do the operations too, but they wanted to cut my pay. And so they wanted me to do two jobs for less. And one of my clients said, Sandra, you should just start your own company. And at the time I was like, I have terrible credit and I have no money. How would I be able to do that? And eventually one of the people that I worked for, he and his wife lent me $10,000. And I started my first business. And we agreed that if he was still competing with me at the end of a year, then, if he wasn't competing with me at the end of a year, that he would be my partner, because he wasn't happy with the partnership he had. And so he didn't think he would stay in it. But at the end of a year, he was still in it. So I said, can I just buy you out? And he said, yes. So he helped me with knowledge, and, he lent me a few $1,000s throughout that first year. But I paid him back, and he made a profit on it at the end of a year. So then I just remained 100% owner of my first business that I started in 1989. So almost 4 decades, Melinda. I'm not quite to 4 decades, but almost there. And, I built that business, and I just remember when I first started it, my first month, I needed to bill $10,000 a month. That was my goal. I had one employee, I had rent to pay, I had a 1-bedroom apartment and a car payment. And I thought I need to build $10,000 so I can pay myself enough to pay my bills and pay my one employee, right? And the first month I billed over $9,000. And from then on, I cash flowed the business. And it's that $10,000 that someone lent me to get started really was a catalyst to my success, right? So I learned how to grow organically and pay for things as I built my revenue. So, back then I'd buy a new computer and then just get another one and get another employee as I built the revenue.
Mm-hmm. So how would you say your perspective on leadership has evolved overall, since you first started back then to now?
Well, it has totally evolved. Thank goodness for all the people around me that have tolerated me to go through this experience, because I grew up on a farm in Nebraska, and I learned, I had to do manual labor from the time I could walk, right? My dad wanted all boys and he got a bunch of girls. So he needed help and we had to do manual labor. And I think that really set me up for success. But what it did do is he was also hostile. He was under a lot of pressure with 9 kids, I guess, and stuff. So, it was, I think that I learned to do more with spice than make it nice, so I had to change over the years, because I had a revolving door when I first opened my business. For years, I would tell you, I learned how to do every piece of the business. So I do sales during the day, I do the work at night, and I was really demanding of the people that work for me. And I still am today, but I overutilized my team. So people worked a lot of overtime. And I was working a lot. So I expected everybody to want to do that. And not everybody wanted to. And it took me a while to get that. And so today I have a team that's been with me most of my team has been with me over a decade. And so, I underutilize my team more, but they have the capacity and the knowledge and the expertise that that we can scale, because they can do more. We can do more with the same team. So, learning that was a painful process to go through when I look back at it, because when I was younger, I thought, I can do their job. Now I tell them, when I give a job away, I don't ever want it back. I want you to keep it. I want you to stay with me forever. And I want you to be the expert in that area. So I guess it just took time to go from that mentality of what I learned growing up about, just working tons of hours and doing manual labor and it being hard, to that you go further with a team. You can go alone, or you can go further with the team. When you have a team behind you that is willing and knowledgeable and they get the skills that they need, it makes your life really much easier as a CEO. And then you can do the part that you're good at.
Did you feel like you were challenged as a woman leader in your business? And how did you overcome that?
Absolutely. I mean, there's been so many things where, when I look back at some of the things that have happened with customers and, things that people would say to my staff. And when I was younger, I was like, they're not going to come to our office. Don't worry about it. They were rude. They did this. Today, I tell my team, if somebody's rude, they need to go work with someone else. We only want to work with nice people that are going to appreciate the value of the quality that we give to them. Mm-hmm. And so it has not been easy as a woman. I never really looked at it like that was the problem, though. I didn't really look at it like it's because I'm a woman that I'm not winning this RFP, or that I'm not, I didn't even know that there was something called WeBank through certified. WeBank is Women Business Enterprise National Council, which certifies women-owned businesses across the United States. And there's over 20,000 women that are certified through that. And what that organization does is it helps make connections for women to work with other women business owners and to work with Fortune 500 companies. And so, but I didn't get certified until 2002. I've been self-employed since 1989. So for all those years, I didn't know that there was, I didn't think that I started when I was so young, that I didn't think it was about whether I was a woman or not. But, when I look back now, I can see, oh, that's not normal, that should have happened, right? Sure. The way that someone handled an opportunity that we won and then didn't give it to us and said, well, our other vendor is having us drive their Ferraris or do this or do that, And it was a long time ago that those conversations came up. But at the time, I didn't know that that wasn't okay. Right.
Right. So now you started your business really young. I did too. I was 26 when I started my first business, and I didn't have my son until I was 33. So I know that you have two children as well. They are all grown up now, but how did you handle, running your business and becoming a mom and, kind of managing all of that?
Well, I'm with you, Melinda. I didn't know we had that in common too, that I didn't have my kids until, my late 30s. And so, so there's so many good things about waiting to have them, is that I was really well established, and it's harder. I remember calling one of my sisters when I had my second, and I was like, oh my gosh, what have I done? And I was great. She goes, and she came to help me. She was like, any idiot can take care of two kids. And then she came to help me for a weekend, and she goes, well, maybe not in your 40s. Maybe in the 20s, because her kids were grown already. She goes, maybe not in the 40s. I said, see, exactly. So, I remember, I laughed. I used to say to people, I brought them into this world and I waved goodbye because mom's going to work, because for their life, before the pandemic, I went to work in my office. So I went to work. So I waved goodbye to my kids. And a lot of times I went to work before they got up, because my office is open from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. So I would go to work a lot of times before they got up. And, they grew up with a mom that was working. And I think it's now they're starting to view things differently, because they're on their own. They're in their 20s, mid 20s now, and they're paying their bills and stuff. And I think that they have a new perspective. Sure. And so, but it was a challenge. It's a challenge, as to try to be, as a mother, you want to be there and you want to be the best mom. But if you're going to grow a business, you really have to sacrifice. Because there was a lot of times where I would have to choose. I chose to go fly across country to be at an event, to meet prospective clients, or to close a deal, and I would miss a birthday, or I would miss an event at school.
Sure.
And, so it's a challenge to try to do it. What I think is interesting today is post-pandemic, for women, there's men that are working remote as well, but it seems like there's still more women that are working remote. Now they're trying to raise their kids and have a full-time job. And I think that's really challenging for today, for both the employer's perspective and for the employee's perspective.
I think it is hard. I definitely think it's hard. And I'm a new empty nester, but I can remember when my son was small, like what you're talking about. One of the things that I used to do with him is make him rank things for me. So I would be like, okay, Jojo, is this an A? If it was an A event, it was a mommy got to be there, right? If it was a B event, mommy would try to be there. If it was a C event, get out of my face with a C event. Like, come on.
Right.
And so literally, that was the system that he and I used. And if I knew I had to miss something important, I made sure that my village was there and he didn't even feel me not being there.
Right.
And I also used to do really amazing things for birthdays. Like I was like the birthday monster, right? So I would always, I would surprise him the day of his birthday. Oh, we're going on the Disney cruise today. And he'd be like, nuh-uh. And he'd get to the airport and his two best friends and their moms were sitting there at the gate. And he was like, oh my God, we're really, So I used to try to do almost like these publisher clearinghouse kind of things, because I worked a lot. I traveled a lot. I had to take care of us, Right. But I also tried to be like, when I did something fabulous, it was pretty fabulous.
Right, exactly. Yes.
So that was always my secret weapon to get over that constant mom guilt that kind of always seems to creep up.
Right.
Now tell me about navigating, the downturn in 0809, navigating, the pandemic. You've been in business a long time, so you've been through the fire, the wind, and the rain, I would believe. So
yes.
Tell me about how you manage different, downturn situations.
Well, 2008, I don't really like to talk about because I had a large client that transitioned out right before the financial crisis hit. So now I say sometimes things get worse before they get better, right? And so at that time, I didn't realize that. And so it did get worse. And I just went through, a hostile divorce. And so, the divorce, I mean, my kid's dad was involved. And when we divorced, I moved around the corner. So that was good because we did agree about the kids. If I was traveling, he would have them. And if he couldn't have them, then my person would take care of them if I wasn't here. But most of the time they were with their dad or myself. But regardless, for 2008, I thought I was going to go bankrupt. My volume went from here to here. And it happened like that. And I thought that I was going to replace this large client with a new one. And I had a couple opportunities that they told me that one of them, I was a finalist in an RFP. One of them had chosen Private Eyes. And so, but then the financial crisis happened. And the one that had chosen us said, we're selling off this division. So we're not going to go forward with this. And then the other one, the person that was taking me there from this other large corporation, she had a personal change. And so they decided not to go forward with this too. So then I was like, am I going to go bankrupt? And I remember calling my friend and she said, don't be a loser and give up like everybody else, keep going. And then she goes, but here's my bankruptcy attorney's number. So I called
by the way, yeah.
Bankruptcy attorney goes, where are you going to live? He said, do you have enough money for a month to move? Because where are you going to live with your kids? And because I had an SBA loan attached to my house. So I was like, well, that's not going to happen. So I cried. And then I went back to work. And, then we started doing a new marketing campaign. I remember at the time. And, I had no idea if it was going to work, but I started having sales calls every day from 6 a.m. till like 6 p.m. And I just do one presentation after another all day. And so we grew 100% from 2009 to 2010. And then I started paying off all my debt. And then, everything just got better from there. We just kept growing. And so, the company now, the other thing is I had a red logo at that time and we were bleeding and they changed it to green and we've been profitable ever since. So, I don't know if there's any karma in that, but I do like green. Green is such a great color.
Well, I think 0809 really was one of those separate the wheat from the chaff kind of situations. Yeah. There was a lot of us that almost lost everything in 0809. And I too was going through a bad marriage that ended up in divorce shortly thereafter, the exact same time. So we are kindred spirits in a whole lot of ways. So now just to wrap this up though, I want to understand how mentorship really impacted your business and how you've been able to grow yourself as well as your business.
Yeah, so I mentioned WeBank earlier, and that's one of the boards that I've participated on. I was on the national board and I'm on a regional board, but WeBank offers educational courses for women-owned businesses and for you to meet with corporations, but you learn so much. And so I did a program called Tuck through Dartmouth College in 2012, and I just was paying off all my debt. And the professor was like, girls, if you're smart enough to make it, you're smart enough to invest it. She said, take it out of the business. It doesn't deplete your value of your business. You'll be able to track the money was there. So if you decide to sell, you'll still be able to show the profitability, but take the money out, reinvest in what you need to, but take the rest out and invest in the market or real estate or other things. And so or buy another business. So you have another stream of revenue. And I really listened to that, took that to heart, and that changed my life. That course through WeBank that one of my clients sponsored me to do in 2012 changed my life, because in the last decade, I did exactly that. And, the real estate that we've acquired has, grown 200 or 300%. And wow. So, I've made a lot of investments, and at the same time, I've kept Private Eyes profitable and debt-free.
Well, that's yet another thing we have in common. I did the Tuck program as well.
That's so great.
I did it as well.
And then Vistage too is another organization that I'm involved in, and that has helped me. It's a group of CEOs that meet monthly, and we help support each other with our goals and any issues that come up. Because what I've learned over the years is that and through WeBank, I have so many women CEO friends that I've acquired over the years, and some of them have large enterprise organizations, and some of them have small businesses, but we all have the same issues. We have payroll, we have rent, we have employees, we have to do marketing.
Access to capital, right? It's a very consistent sort of issue. Sure. One of the things I wanted to ask you about is how have you continued to stay relevant? Because so much has changed. Like I can remember, when we got Wi-Fi in everybody's house. I can remember when social media was just becoming a thing, right? Like in 07. And now we've got AI, right? So now we're on the tipping point of another major revolution in business practice. And I'm just wondering how you've managed to roll with all this stuff. Does it make you have a headache, or are you just like, let's go, let's learn some new stuff? Like how have you managed all the change?
I think that we do have to keep learning and growing, and that's how I've been able to adapt. So, for example, when I started Private Eyes 25 years ago, our clients faxed us the applications, right? And I'd run out of paper. I'd have to run to Costco and get more paper, all the time. And so today we don't use any paper in our office, and we wrote our own technology. So we're a technology company that provides the service of background screening and drug screening to our customers across the nation. So we have our own software so we can integrate with various HR systems or ATS systems, applicant tracking systems. And so having our own software allows us to be able to continue to innovate and enhance the software internally for our team so we can make their jobs easier and more efficient and better quality, but also externally for our clients and our vendors. And so, we did that at the beginning of the pandemic. Things stopped for a minute, right? So what I told my team is we're going to do two things. We're going to put all of our resources on developing this software and getting it done. And then we're going to also turn into a marketing company and keep getting new clients, even though we have the challenge of the pandemic. And we did that. And so we've been able to be sustainable and stay relevant because now we have the technology to back up our service.
Wow. And how long did it take you to develop your own software?
Well, it didn't take very long, so I'm so surprised I didn't do it sooner, because I have another service that we provide, which is getting banks and mortgage lenders the 4506C, which is your IRS tax transcript to verify the income you have for a mortgage loan or an SBA loan. And I started that division in 2010. After the financial crisis, they decided it would be a good idea if they get the IRS tax transcripts before they give out these loans. Right? And so we started offering this service, and now we're integrated with the IRS. So for consumer, if we're doing an individual's tax transcript, they'll get a link from the IRS for multi-factor authentication, and then it instantly will come into our system. So our clients can get those results back instantly on consumers. And so, I already had developed that software for that in 2010. And then I built onto it, and we were able to finish it during the pandemic. And, another thing I want to mention about the pandemic is my director of operations in 2019, in December, he said, Sandra, we got to upgrade our phone systems. And I was like, how's that going to impact our bottom line? Why would we do that? And I fought him on it, but he talked me into it. We did it. But if we wouldn't have done it, we wouldn't have been able to, when we had to
have everybody work remote, you wouldn't have had the facility.
Our phones wouldn't have worked, and it would have been a disaster. But because he suggested that we do that, and we did it. Then when we had shelter in place, everyone picked up their computer and their phone and went home, plugged it into the internet, and our clients didn't even know that we were sheltered in place.
Wow. So I'm so glad I asked you that question, because that was like such a brilliant answer. Now tell me one last thing. What is the best business advice anyone has ever given you?
I think that revenue is vanity, profit is sanity. That's really the best thing somebody said to me. I cannot remember where I got it, but that's the thing I live by now. That's my mantra, is revenue is vanity, profit is sanity.
I have never heard that one, but I'm going to give you credit the first time I use it, and then I might just steal that one. Thank you so much, Sandra, for being here with me. And when we come right back, we're going to talk more with both of my guests. We're going to talk with Carla Trotman. We're going to talk more with Sandra James, and we're going to do our Hit It or Quit It panel. So stay with us.
Are you ready to turn your dreams of entrepreneurship into a reality? Hi, I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, and I want to invite you to check out smallbizladyacademy.com. We're here to help you every step of the way with our comprehensive training programs and expert resources. You'll learn how to start and grow a successful business that aligns with your passions and your goals. From business systems to sales strategies, we cover it all. Plus, our supportive community of fellow women business owners is here to cheer you on and provide guidance when you need it. Don't wait any longer to pursue your dreams. Join smallbizladyacademy.com today. We build businesses and we help you build the life you've always wanted.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Small Biz Chat podcast. I'm Melinda Emerson, your host, and I'm so excited to welcome back to the stage both of my guests. I'm going to bring Sandra James and Carla Chapman back to the stage, and we're going to have what we like to call our Hit It and Quit It panel. All right, this is how it works. I'm going to ask both of you the exact same question. You can only talk for 30 seconds and give us your answer. And you cannot, I repeat, you cannot take each other's answers. So if somebody swipes your answer, you got to come up with another answer. You guys got it?
Got it.
All right. All right. So the first question, Carla, I'm going to come to you first. The first question is, what is your favorite podcast? What is your favorite podcast that you like to listen to?
Oh gosh, people are going to judge me. It's a podcast called Ratchet and Respectable with Demetria L. Lucas. And I like it because she is like my sister in my head, from pop culture to serious current events to what's going on in the world. She's traveled the world. She's been reporting in from different parts of Africa. She's gone on her own just odysseys and personal discovery, and we're around the same age. And I just love it because it's like we don't always have to be so buttoned up and together as business women. Like we really do live life, and
Right.
and I love it. I really do. I find it refreshing as a Black woman.
I love it. I love it. Sandra, what is your favorite podcast?
Well, it's Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady, because you have such interesting people on your podcast.
That's true.
You are so sweet. Thank you so much. You know what? A podcast that I have recently discovered that I love is this podcast called Membership Geeks. And it's these two guys out of London, and they are hysterical, but they keep it 100 for people that are building memberships like we have Small Biz Lady Academy. So I'm always trying to learn how to be better, and they are hilarious and they keep it 100. I mean, it is two guys and they're British, and they're funny because they're British, some of the stuff they say, but I really enjoy them a lot. So all right, second question, what is your favorite business app? Sandra, what is your favorite business app?
The favorite, it's so funny because I own a technology company, but I'm not that technical. So I'm trying to think of what the best app. I don't use a lot of apps.
Well, which ones do you use? I mean,
I don't use a lot because I'm a private investigator and I don't want anybody tracing my stuff.
You know how people can track you, right?
I don't track my stuff, so I don't use a lot of apps. And so I used to use all kinds of them. And then I was like, maybe that's not a good idea. When I got my PI license probably 10 years ago, and I started investigating other people, I was like, maybe I won't use all that.
Oh, God.
But, I do like LinkedIn. LinkedIn is, we connected through LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, that's how we met. So yeah, no, LinkedIn, you can claim LinkedIn. That's an app for sure. Carla, what is your favorite app?
Actually, it's been lately ChatGPT. I've been using it not just for, business reasons, but I was looking at taking a trip to Kenya with my friends, and I wanted a very specific type of trip for us. And I put in all the details, and it would have taken us forever to do the details. And it's changed the way that I now think about vacation, the way that I think about just concising large amounts of information to give me like, what is this overview? Like, here's 15 pages. What does it say? Finer points. And it's made me more efficient, not just at work, but in my personal life.
Oh yeah, especially if you have the paid version. There's some just amazing stuff this thing can do. I'm a big fan of that app as well. I'm also a big user of I love Audible. Like Audible has become one of my new favorite apps. Like I listen to everything through Audible. Even if I buy the book, I'll like listen to it through Audible too. So I'm like, I still go buy the book. I don't cheat the people, but I just like if I listen to it, I have to be able to write in the margins for myself.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Third question. Carla, I'm coming back to you first. What is your favorite old school marketing tip?
Favorite old school marketing tip? Really, it's just about the word of mouth marketing. I remember when I had my first business, my dad said people underestimate marketing. They think they're like, all right, I'm here. Open the door. We're open. Come on in. Underestimate the amount of marketing, but I find that there's more relationships. It's less transactional when it's word of mouth and people give you, they just had really good service or they really enjoyed your product or really enjoyed doing business with you. And they are willing to spend their time and energy speaking about you. That it's always like a tried and true. I don't think you'll ever get rid of it because we still use it for reviews. That's word of mouth.
100%. Sandra, what about you? What is your favorite old school marketing tip?
I think that it's still face to face, for that the best success that we have is like meeting people and making friends, it is relationship, which is similar to what Carla's saying. I'm not supposed to use her answer, but it's really
a different answer.
But really, but really, I was just having this conversation with someone on my team. I said, if you spend this much time with someone and it didn't close, it's because you didn't have the rapport.
Right.
Did you know anything about them? Did you ask them any questions? Did you connect with them?
Yeah.
If you connect with somebody, that's where, and you find out who they are, then that's where the magic happens. And, it lasts for a long time,
Yeah, that like, know, and trust. It's always about like, know, and trust at the end of the day. My favorite old school tip is pick up the phone. Like pick up the phone. Magic happens over the phone. Stop sending emails. Pick up the phone, please. Especially once you have some rapport, pick up the phone. Last question, ladies. And this time, Sandra, I'm coming to you first. What is the best business book you've ever read?
It's such a simple book. It's called Who Moved My Cheese? Have you ever heard of it?
Oh, absolutely.
Who Moved My Cheese? It's such an easy book. But, somebody asked me, how do you pivot when things happen? And I said, sometimes I first stomp my feet and cry and say, moved my cheese. And then I move and do something different.
Yeah, I can completely
customers change, life changes, things happen in the economy that are outside our control.
Yeah.
But I like that book. It's such an easy read, but it had a huge impact for me.
No, that's a classic, but that's an oldie but goodie. Carla, what's your favorite business book?
It would be Vern Harnish's Scaling Up book. And actually the predecessor to it was the Rockefeller Habits. It completely changed the way I thought about my business, about strategy, planning. I think we overdo it sometimes, and sometimes getting it just on one page, like with their one-page strategic plan, really helps it get it out of your head and makes it simple.
Yeah. No, I'm a big fan of that book too. Vern Harnish is a legend in our business, so 100% I co-sign that. My favorite business book is actually 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dan Sullivan, which has become my favorite book that I've read in the last 2 years. I haven't read anything that shocked my world like that, but I'm even listening to that book. They've got some extra interviews between Dan, because Dan's like 70 something now. So he had a young guy like help him write it. So like they do interviews with each other in the Audible version. Like it's really a good book. So I highly recommend it. All right. Listen, thank you so much, ladies, for being here with me on the Small Biz Chat podcast. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much to Carla Trotman. Please don't forget to go grab her book, Dark, Dirty, and Dangerous. Go get it on Amazon right now. It's a bestseller. You need it too. And please go and check out Sandra James's book. She's got a book called Don't Tell Me I Can't. Okay, go get that book too. I love it. I love it. And I appreciate you both very much. And so please go and check out their websites, carlatrotman.com, and check out Sandra. Sandra, what is your business website? Private Eyes Background Checks with an S.com. So if you need her services, go check that out as well. Now, I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, and I want to thank you for being with me for another episode of the Small Biz Chat podcast. And hey, if you are a woman business owner out there looking for support, looking for advice, tired of going it alone, you really want to know how to make a difference in your business, I want you to consider becoming a member of the Small Biz Lady Academy. We are an exclusive women's business site. We have two pathways: how to start, ready to grow. We have everything you need. My 16 years of knowledge we have put into this platform, and our content is available in English and in Spanish. So if you want to try it out, we have a 30-day free trial. Just head over to smallbizladyacademy.com. Get signed up today, because I want to help you live your best life through your business. All right, I'll leave you all with this. You never lose in business. Either you win or you learn. God bless everybody.